Canal 5 has been Mexico's premier children's television network since 1952. That was until 1980s when it became one of the most disturbing internet rabbit holes.
Selene Delgado. Who is she?
She's everyone's friend, but
nobody can unfriend her.
Pedimos ayuda para localizar a Selene Delgado López, de 18 años, se extravió el 22 de abril.
Ew! They would post that at 3 a.m. for kids?
In the 1980s, Mexico was dealing with a missing persons crisis. People were disappearing at alarming rates, and traditional police methods were proving inadequate. Television offered something unique, the ability to put faces to names and make missing persons real to millions of viewers simultaneously. So Canal 5 made a decision that would haunt Mexican television for decades. They introduced Al Servicio de la Comunidad, at the service of the community. This public service segment was designed to help locate missing persons by broadcasting their information during commercial breaks, particularly during late-night hours when fewer adults were monitoring children's viewing. The format was simple. During cartoon programming, the screen would suddenly cut to black without warning. The cheerful voices of animated characters would be replaced by the somber tone of Melquiades Sanchez Orozco, Canal 5's veteran announcer.
Encuéntrala. Canal 5 y Protección Civil solicita discreción al espectador y el contacto urgente de los familiares de las siguientes personas. Todas se encuentran sin vida. Aproximadamente 25 años de edad.
Names, ages, last known locations. Most unsettling were the photographs. Grainy black and white images of real people who had vanished. These segments lasted exactly 15 seconds. The psychological whiplash was immediate and severe. Children watching alone at night were suddenly confronted with the reality that real people could simply disappear without explanation. Over 2 decades, Al Servicio de la Comunidad helped reunite hundreds of families with their missing loved ones. Canal 5 received hundreds of tips from viewers who recognized missing persons. The psychological impact on children was considered acceptable for the lives potentially saved. For 20 years, this was simply how Mexican television operated. Then, in the early 2000s, as internet communities formed and people began paying closer attention to these segments, viewers discovered something that had gone unquestioned for decades. Something was very wrong. Among the hundreds of missing persons featured over the years, one case began standing out for disturbing reasons. Her name was Selene Delgado Lopez. According to the broadcast, she was 18 years old when she disappeared. The photograph showed a young woman with dark hair and dark eyes that seemed to stare directly through the television screen. Initially, Selene's case appeared no different from thousands of others. Her segment followed the same format: somber announcement, basic information, grainy photograph, plea for assistance. Nothing suggested this case would become significant. Then reports began filtering in from viewers across Mexico describing unusual technical problems that occurred specifically during Selene's segment. When her photograph appeared on screen, television sets would malfunction in ways that defied explanation. The image would freeze for much longer than 15 seconds, sometimes for minutes. Parents across Mexico began receiving panicked calls from their children about La niña que rompió la televisión, the girl who broke the TV. The phenomenon became so widespread that it developed its own folklore among Mexican children. The interruptions are still an urban legend that might not have happened at all. But when concerned viewers tried to research Selene Delgado Lopez, they encountered something unprecedented. She appeared to have no official existence outside the Canal 5 broadcasts. No police reports documented her disappearance. No newspaper coverage existed detailing her case. No government records contained any trace of her existence. No family members came forward with additional information. This complete absence of documentation was unprecedented. Other missing persons from the same period had extensive paper trails, police reports, news coverage, family interviews, government records. Selene Delgado Lopez existed only in those few seconds of late-night television that caused technical malfunctions and psychological trauma. Mexican internet communities became consumed with solving the mystery. Forums dedicated to unexplained phenomena systematically collected testimonies from viewers who had experienced technical problems and psychological effects. Researchers compared her photograph to databases of stock images, missing persons records from other countries, and early computer-generated imagery. Mexican journalists assigned reporters to verify basic facts through traditional investigative methods. Several theories emerged to explain the phenomenon, each more unsettling than the last. The first theory focused on technical malfunction. Perhaps Canal 5's broadcast equipment had problems with Selene's specific image file. Corrupted data could explain freezing and audio issues, but this theory had critical flaws. Identical glitches occurred across completely different broadcast systems throughout Mexico. For a single corrupted file to cause identical malfunctions across multiple independent broadcasting infrastructures would require systematic failure that experts deemed virtually impossible. The second theory was more disturbing. Selene wasn't real. Digital imaging specialists noticed the photograph's suspiciously poor quality, even by early 2000 standards. Her facial features appeared oddly generic, lacking distinctive characteristics that would make a real person easily identifiable. Some experts suggested the photograph might be computer-generated, a composite image created by combining features from multiple sources. Forum user Televisor MX, claiming to work at Canal 5 during this period, provided inside information. According to their posts, Selene's photograph wasn't in the station's official missing persons database. Her segments were being manually inserted into broadcasts by someone with system access, bypassing normal verification procedures. When management discovered these unauthorized insertions, they launched an internal investigation, but before completion, whoever was responsible either left their position or lost system access. The investigation was quietly dropped. The third theory was most sinister. Selene was part of a deliberate psychological experiment. Researchers noticed that escalations in her story corresponded with periods of social upheaval in Mexico. Economic crises, political instability, drug war violence. The timing appeared calculated, targeting the population when they were most vulnerable to accepting supernatural explanations. This theory suggested Selene was a test case for how effectively mass media could create shared false memories and collective trauma. Intelligence analysts explored the possibility that she represented part of a broader program designed to test psychological warfare techniques through mass media manipulation. Such programs would require significant funding, technical expertise, and institutional access. But perhaps most unsettling was that each theory explained some evidence while raising new questions. The truth seemed deliberately designed to resist solution, creating a mystery that would persist and grow stronger over time. For nearly 2 decades, Selene Delgado Lopez existed primarily as Mexican digital folklore, a ghost story safely contained within internet forums and whispered conversations. Then 2020 happened, and everything changed. The pandemic fundamentally changed how people consumed media. Everyone was more isolated, anxious, and psychologically vulnerable than in decades. Canal 5 had evolved significantly since the early 2000s. Their social media presence was sophisticated and professionally managed, with dedicated teams maintaining active accounts across all major platforms. Their content strategy was carefully coordinated with television programming, creating a comprehensive digital ecosystem. But during early 2020, something began changing that would reignite the Selene Delgado mystery in unprecedented ways. Starting in March 2020, between midnight and 4 a.m., precisely when original Al Servicio de la Comunidad segments aired, Canal 5's official Twitter account began posting content completely unrelated to children's programming. These weren't accidental posts or scheduling errors. They were deliberate uploads of dark, unsettling videos completely inconsistent with everything Canal 5 represented. The posting pattern was disturbingly systematic. Every video appeared during dead of night, when most children should be asleep. The content featured disturbing imagery and glitched audio designed to cause psychological discomfort. Every post was deleted before dawn. The videos were genuinely disturbing. Footage of empty hospital hallways with flickering lights casting sickly shadows. Audio clips of children's laughter played in reverse, transforming innocent joy into something sinister. Some featured distorted audio resembling human voices in unidentifiable languages at frequencies that created physical discomfort. Perhaps most disturbing were videos appearing to be corrupted children's programming, familiar cartoon characters digitally distorted into nightmarish versions, or popular children's songs played at the wrong speeds until they became threatening and unrecognizable. Each post seemed more calculated to cause psychological disturbance than the previous, suggesting sophisticated understanding of manipulation techniques and deliberate escalation designed to maximize emotional impact while maintaining plausible deniability. Mexican news outlets investigated. Infobay Mexico contacted Canal 5's communications department, but staff claimed no knowledge of unauthorized content. They insisted all social media went through careful review by their marketing team, and no disturbing content had been authorized. Digital investigators who captured videos before deletion made a troubling discovery. The content wasn't original. These were existing creepy videos that had circulated online for years, primarily on horror-focused websites. This raised obvious questions. If someone had gained unauthorized access to Canal 5's accounts, why choose existing videos rather than create original content? Why maintain such consistent posting schedules while carefully deleting everything before morning? Canal 5's official explanation was inadequate. They claimed posts were an experimental late-night programming block that had been discontinued due to viewer feedback. They insisted content was meant for adults and posted during late hours to minimize child exposure. But after 2 decades, Canal 5 was deliberately invoking the legend that had traumatized an entire generation of Mexican children. April 15, 2020, 3:17 a.m. Mexico City time. Canal 5's Twitter account posted what would become the most infamous video in the entire controversy. 23 seconds of an elderly British man's face, heavily distorted by digital effects making features appear to melt as he spoke. His voice was manipulated to drop in pitch with each repetition, transforming normal speech into barely human sounds.
Time for lunch, munch, munch. Time for a munch, crunch, crunch. Munch, munch, crunch, crunch. Munchy, munchy, crunchy, crunchy.
Within 3 hours, the video was deleted, but screenshots and recordings were already spreading across Mexican social media. The source was quickly identified: Michael Rosen, a beloved British children's author, reciting his poem Lunchtime on YouTube. Rosen's original was cheerful and educational. Canal 5's version was pure nightmare fuel. Someone had transformed innocent educational content into horror through sophisticated digital distortion. Spanish news site America 2.0 suggested this might be an elaborate publicity stunt. Google searches for Canal 5 had spiked dramatically during the controversy. If generating attention was the goal, the strategy was effective. However, something else was happening simultaneously that suggested the Canal 5 posts were part of something much larger. Mexican Facebook users began reporting a technically impossible phenomenon. Selene Delgado Lopez was appearing on their friends lists, not as requests they could accept or decline, but as established friends, as if they had added her themselves. The profile picture showed a middle-aged woman. No posts, no information, no mutual friends, just that face staring from their feeds. When users tried removing her, she would reappear. When they blocked her, it wouldn't work. Facebook support gave generic responses about privacy settings that didn't address the technical impossibility. However, it was later revealed that, in actuality, the woman is simply an ordinary person who shares the same name with the missing person, and that she had actually changed her Facebook privacy settings, removing the Add Friend button from her profile. Due to the constant harassment she received, she changed her profile to private, where it remained so to this very day. 23 years after her first appearance, Selene Delgado Lopez has become something unprecedented, a completely fictional character or an actual missing person whose psychological impact on real people has exceeded that of most genuine missing persons cases. The verifiable facts are minimal but deeply unsettling. Canal 5 broadcast missing persons segments for over 2 decades. 20 years later, during a global pandemic when populations were most vulnerable, Canal 5's social media accounts began posting disturbing content referencing the original mystery. Simultaneously, a Facebook profile with her name appeared on thousands of accounts through technically impossible methods. She may not be real, but the fear she represents, that we can no longer distinguish between authentic and manufactured memories. The evidence overwhelmingly suggests deliberate orchestration by entities with significant technical resources and institutional access.